Just a recap from the game, certainly the first thing that stood out, a great crowd, great atmosphere, loud, just exactly what you expect at Tiger Stadium. So certainly appreciate our fans showing up and creating such a great home field advantage for us. We really appreciate that and look forward to seeing that again back in when we get back in October. A battle for the boot, a rivalry game, Arkansas. I was really impressed after watching the film. They played very well-coached football team on all sides. Their offensive game plan was outstanding. Defensively, did some really good things. And we had to overcome. We got off to a slow start offensively, but our defense, didn't. They actually got off to a really good start and kind of gave us a chance to kind of settle in offensively. And, once we're able to do that, got it moving. I thought what stood out was our perseverance. We get down 14-3 with like 48 seconds to go in the half, and that was a huge touchdown for Arkansas. But our offense moves the ball down the field with 48 seconds on the clock and scores. And that was a big touchdown. We come out in the second half, score again, and turn the momentum around. And certainly, Arkansas answered, and we answered back twice when they tied the score. But I think what was really big in that game, and sometimes you look at it, differently after the game, and when you get a chance to watch the film. But after we gave up the fake field goal, the way our defense dug in and refused to give up a touchdown in that situation was huge. That can be overlooked in many instances, but the resolve of our defense to dig down and hold them to 3 after giving up a fake field goal, which, as you know, emotionally can take the wind right out of you. Our guys hung in there, battled, and only gave up the field goal and forced them to use 2 timeouts, because that comes back later when they don't have any timeouts, where we can control the clock later in the game. So very pivotal situation in the game where our defense was really resilient. Now, there was some self-inflicted wounds that we're going to have to clean up, but all in all, Daniels again, Neighbors, the running game was really solid. Really liked what we saw there. Thomas, there were playmakers out there on the offensive side of the ball. We come up with a big sudden change turnover. So a lot of good things there to get that win, and again, things to build off of going into this week against, Ole Miss, who we know to be an outstanding football team. We got to go there on the road. And again, outstanding offense, number 2 in the SEC. Very aggressive defense. One of the top defenses in the SEC. I think they're second in the SEC in sacks. They're going to get after it. Jackson Dart's been, resilient, tough, physical quarterback. He's thrown for over 1,000, and he's rushing the football as well. And we know about Judkins from last year. Watkins leads them in receptions. And then, again, a very difficult defense to go against because they're so physical and aggressive. So, a rivalry game again in terms of the Magnolia Bowl trophy game. And again, got to go on the road against another SEC opponent. So, looking forward to the challenge. We've got some things that we've got to get better at, just like everybody else in the country, but looking forward to the challenge. So, one thing I do want to announce, Jaden Daniels was the SEC co-offensive player of the week for the second consecutive week, so congratulations to him. And he also becomes only the 6th player in FBS history with 10,000 passing yards and 2,000 rushing yards. So congratulations to him as well. So, open it up to questions.
lot of great positives, certainly, but you talked about the unforced errors or self-inflicted wounds. How much of those were just responsibility losses? I guess, obviously we know the long, deep toss was, but the tight end across the middle, what did you see in that one as well?
Yeah, so they flooded a zone into the short field. And again, that's a pass coverage situation where, we certainly have to recognize that and pick that up. That's a common occurrence in college football where somebody floods a zone and a linebacker doesn't see it and he's got to get to that coverage. So we weren't in a great coverage for that. If we're in a rolled coverage or a different coverage variation, we probably pick that up pretty easily. But that's something that we've got to get taken care of. No, that would actually be the Mike linebacker. Yeah.
Coach, right here, you talked a little bit about this in the preseason, but just can you talk about more about Brian Thomas's, just the way he's evolved? Obviously a big game for him, but he's been kind of quietly putting together solid performances. What does that do for your offense, and what kind of challenge is that for now an opposing defense? Neighbors on one side, Thomas on the other.
Well, as you know, Neighbors is getting a lot of attention. If they're playing man coverage, that safety is definitely tilted towards Neighbors, as you can imagine. And in some instances, he's getting bracket coverage, which means, they're playing a zone to one side with him and then man on the other side. And so you've got to be able to find other matchups. It's almost a sense where they're trying to take him out of the game. You've got to find the other one-on-one matchups. And so, BT gets some one-on-one matchups that are favorable, and Jaden's seeing that, and we're taking advantage of it. And Brian's, obviously very capable to win in those one-on-one matchups.
Hey, Brian, on your left.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, you had mentioned that you have more than 11 on defense. It's pretty clear y'all are using a lot more players now.
Yep.
Have you exhausted all of your personnel options defensively to where the guys you have right now are the guys you feel like you can roll with?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's anybody else that we would bring into the game. We'd like to get, obviously everybody healthy. Getting all of the guys out there physically. Spates obviously is one guy that we'd like to get back out on the field. I think there's some other tweaks that we can do defensively to see that we get guys in the right position and let them influence the game accordingly. So there's not another guy that, let's take a red shirt off of a particular player or another guy that's going to get in the rotation. You might see some players play a little bit more, but the group of guys that we have playing on the defensive side of the ball, we just have to play, to me, and we were talking about this from a defensive perspective, we have to do the ordinary things extraordinarily well. And I know that's an overused cliche that we hear so many times, but we're having a tendency of trying to chase too many plays on defense. And what I mean by that, we're trying to make plays that are really not our place to make, and we just need to do our job. And I think once we settle down and just do the ordinary things extraordinarily well, this can be a really good defense because it's shown itself to have resiliency and toughness and the players necessary to do that.
Yeah, Brian, right here. Do you feel like this year's team is starting to play with the same resolve that last year's team had? Can you start to see that?
I'm seeing that starting to evolve and that identity. And look, I mean, there are times when you play in quality competition that you get a better sense and feel for your team, and especially when you're down, right? We weren't down against Mississippi State at any time. We weren't down at any time against Grambling. And we really didn't have the right mix, a mindset going into the Florida State game. So this was our first chance really to identify who we were when we got down late. And we immediately responded, and we came out in the second half and played the kind of football that I expect. Never flinching, knowing that we were going to take some more shots, and when we gave up a play, we forgot about it and we got to the next play. And so that in answering your question, starts to form an identity as to who you are, and I think that we're seeing some resiliency from last year to this year.
Hey, Coach, right in the middle. Although he had some growing pains coming into the season, Deshaun Womack has made an impact coming off the edge. How has he grown as a player, and how will his role expand moving forward?
You know, he's young, he's learning. You know, he couldn't even keep his helmet on when he was out on the field, so we got to teach him how to buckle his chin strap and do all that kind of stuff. So, look, I mean, it's a process. I know everybody wants to make a superstar of all these guys in the first time. He's going to be a really good player. And I don't want to take anything away from the young man, but there's a process that he's got to continue to do the little things the right way, and he's making progress. And as you see, we're getting him on the field in our dime package and our nickel package because he can rush the passer. And I'm pretty confident you're going to see more of him, but let's just tap the brakes here a little bit. He's not ready for, a starting position, but he's going to definitely help our defense.
Brian, down here. And
Yes.
Hey. You said just tweaks on defense to get the guys in the right position. What sort of things is that? Is like a really big overhaul, or just sort of? What could that look
No,
like?
this is not, again, I gave you some, I think, clear examples of when a defense is tested, especially after the fake field goal, you get a chance to see what you're made of. I mean, that's an easy opportunity to lay down. That group did not lay down. They were challenged in that situation to come up with some plays. Their eye control was excellent. Their assignments were excellent. We just need to do that on a more consistent basis, and we tend to lose our focus, and we just have to drive that home with this group that when they are doing the little things the right way, they're a pretty good defense. When they try to do like your job and somebody else's job and not their own job, we're not so good. And that's just the maturation of the group. We've got young corners that don't have a lot of experience, and our safeties have to be consistent. They're trying to make up for some inexperience and trying to do a little bit too much, and they just got to do their jobs. And when that group really comes together with our front seven, I think we're going to be a really good defense.
Coach, some more on the secondaries. Is it sometimes a case of the pass rush isn't getting there quite in time and they've got more to do? And then on one of those plays, I don't know if it's the corner thought he had help over the top and guy ran past him, or what is it?
No, he that would be great. His mom and dad would like you to think that. And everybody that buys his jersey, he knew that obviously he made an error. And look, he's not the only one that's made errors, I mean, this is not about one singular play. This is about staying focused all the time, doing your job, and he lost sight and in terms of what he should have been doing on that particular play. What's really important here is, more than anything else, our players can't be trying to make plays. He saw the quarterback as a run threat. That's not his job. His job was to be the deep half defender. Go do your job. There's somebody else assigned to him, and we just have to be consistent with that. And nobody has patience with that, but we do have some young players out there that sometimes we have to understand that the learning curve, there's a little bit of it going on right now.
Hey, Coach, I know he's been banged up a little bit, but he played this last week. Just what do you think is the key to unlocking Mason Taylor a little bit this season?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was outstanding. Look, he was playing at probably 60, 70%, and he gave us everything. He was gritty. He was tough. He made a couple of big catches when we needed him late. I don't think there's any key to unlocking him other than just getting him healthy. When he's healthy, he's a very important part of what we do, and he's going to contribute heavily to what we do once we get him at full strength.
Coach, going back to the end of the game, you talked about how you decided to handle the clock, but why run 3 plays there instead of taking a knee 3 times?
Well, we weren't going to score. So, in that situation, you could definitely make the case, and we talked about using our center play, which is to just slide the ball to the middle of the field with a direct snap and center the ball. That was certainly an option. We discussed it, but we felt more comfortable with the shotgun snap because that's what we do most of the time.
Hey, Coach, over here. Andre Sam in the back end, secondary for y'all, had an interception for y'all this past Saturday. He's been very aggressive making tackles, been kind of all over the place over the field. But what's basically your just input on what you've seen from Andre Sam?
Yeah, he's made progress. I'll give you an example. The interception he made, he would not have made that interception earlier in the year, especially against Florida State. He wasn't playing the post deep enough. He's getting great depth on the post now so he can break up on the over route. We were a little bit short in depth in that deep post position. So he's done a really good job there. He's got to continue to make those open field tackles. So that'll be an area that we'll concentrate with him on. But he's so coachable and plays with great energy, great enthusiasm. Love to coach him every day, and he just wants to get better. That's all right. That's a guy that you want to coach.
Hey, Coach. Last year at times, Jaden, if he'd had a slow start, Auburn, Arkansas, I know he's banged up a little that game, but that it kind of continued through 4 quarters.
Yeah.
This year, a game like this, he has a slow start, but then ends up winning SEC Player of the Week and bouncing back. What does that speak to in terms of maturation or growth or, whatever it is with him as a quarterback?
Great coaching, obviously. That's what it is. Certainly, this is about Jaden Daniels' experience and, knowing what he needs to do to get himself back into rhythm. He was not in great rhythm early. He saw that. He sensed that. He knew that he had to find the right triggers himself because he had been down that road before, and he couldn't get himself back into that rhythm. So I think just the experience himself that he's had to allow himself to find that rhythm that he needed is the difference, and reminding him of it. His drop was a little bit slow, and then he rushed his delivery. He got back into a great rhythm, and it was pretty clear by the second quarter he was back to that kind of consistency. So it speaks to his experience, his knowledge of what he needs to do to be the elite quarterback that he is, and he made the self-corrections based upon the experience that he's had before, and good for him.
Brian, on the roughing penalty on Harold, after getting to go see it on film, curious what you saw, and then also, how do you all teach your pass rushers what to do in that situation when the ball is out?
Well, we actually talked about it. We had a perfect example of that last week or the week before, where Andre Sams had a collision over the middle with a Mississippi State player, where he did a terrific job, and we slowed it down in front of the team, where it could have been a targeting penalty, but he led with the shoulder, did not come near the head or the neck. And it's what we said, you have to be intentional when you're hitting somebody today. You have to be intentional about how you hit them. If not, if you lead with the helmet, if you get into the head or the neck, you put yourself in jeopardy of a targeting penalty, which hurts the team and hurts you. So we had actually shown that video to our team last Monday. So Harold knew exactly, he was running full speed at a quarterback that was out of the pocket, and just trying to get him on the ground. Hit him in the chest with his arm, extended his arm into his chest, didn't get to the head, didn't get to the neck, and it was interpreted as unnecessary. We think that was as unnecessary as, Logan Diggs, late in the game, getting a two-hand hit into the face. So we'll leave it up to our supervisor officials to give us guidance on that, and he'll look at the plays and report back to us.
Speaking of Logan Diggs, just your ability to run the ball late and just the run game kind of coming along in the last couple of weeks as well. What are you seeing there from the offensive line perspective that's making that possible, and obviously some skill from Logan?
Yeah, I think it's comprehensive. I think it's the offensive line certainly doing a great job, combination blocks. I think the backs are running hard with intent. We're not looking to bounce it out. We're low pads. We're taking 4, 5, 6 yards, putting ourselves in good down and distance situations accordingly. We're getting better blocking on the perimeter from our receivers that are allowing some of these runs to open up to be bigger runs. So I think it's just a commitment to a physicality that you need in your run game.
Ryan, just an injury report for the week?
Yeah, so leading into it, we don't have anybody right now that we would list as anything but probable for the game.
You mentioned also last week that I think it was that Malik Neighbors had, over the course of his career, learned how to play every receiver position. How did he
Yes.
get to that point?
Well, we started a little bit of it last year, moving him around a little bit with Kayshawn, because we wanted to make sure that we got enough touches for everybody. And then this spring is when we started to accelerate that process, and then we carried that over into preseason camp. He knew the W position really well. Kayshawn played primarily out of the Z position. So once we knew that we had somebody that knew the W, we spent a lot of time this spring with him at X and Z. And that allowed the learning curve to be much easier when we installed in preseason camp, and that's why you've seen him all over the field. He made some really good catches to the field, as you can imagine, that were clutch for us, that he normally wouldn't have those opportunities because he had been, every time we had him in the boundary, it was difficult coverage because they had a safety over the top. Those were a couple of catches that he made. The one that was really tight coverage, a great catch. He has a safety that's over the top, and it's a tough living if you don't move him around.
Hey, Coach, right here. With the success of the running game over that fourth quarter, do you think part of that had to do with the fact that you guys were just spreading out their defense so much with that deep passing attack, or do you think those two things complement each other?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the numbers were still favorable for them, and I think they were in a situation where, they still were bringing down an extra hat. They felt like they had to play man coverage in that situation, and probably wanted us to throw the football because they knew what our intent was, and that was to take that clock down. So we were still running it with uneven numbers in there, but like I said, that was much more about a will and a desire to just get the extra yards, and I think our backs did a great job.
Coach, on Arkansas' second possession, Major Burns makes a tackle where the guy's literally inches away from scoring, and it saves you 4 points. He's done that before the Alabama game last year. What can you say about his hustle and some of those plays early in games that really add up to winning later?
Yeah, and again, I think that's kind of, some of the things that we were talking about is that we're not perfect. We've got a long way to go. This group really cares, and they play hard. We just need to get our guys to do the ordinary things extraordinarily well. And if they do, and we stay away from some of these self-inflicted wounds, I like what we have going. And so our meeting is going to be one where we're going to show them some of the things that they have done, and when 11 guys are doing their job, it's when we get outside and try to do some other things, because we're getting those kinds of effort plays from our guys.
Just any update on Greg that you might have, but also kind of a guy that you're speaking to is the work that Jefferson's doing inside.
Yes.
So what did you see in him to get him here, and how is that kind of paying off now that he's getting more time?
Greg is making progress, and all I can tell you is this is such a long and lengthy process. And as of Saturday, which was the last report, I'm going to be there today. I'll go to there today. We've tried to. So many people want to get there, and I'm sure so many here too. But he needs rest. He needs to recover. And when you have a lot of people going there, and it just takes a lot of his energy away from him. So he's starting to make the kind of recovery that his doctors want. And, we're just, obviously every single day we're getting to the point where he's making that recovery necessary for him to be up and around. So we're making progress. The second part of the question was Jefferson. He's twitchy. He's extremely strong, and we're going to look at him, playing a little bit more on the nose in our 3 down because he can do a lot of things for us. So playing some nose, that kind of physicality and what he can do for us in our 3 down front. I think he'll make a difference for us.
Hey, Coach, 4 games into the season, do you guys feel like you've kind of found your rotation at running back, and what's been the evaluation of that room overall now that you kind of have everybody?
Yeah, I think it kind of showed itself kind of the way I've been talking about it, is that we're going to go with the guy that's running well, and, Diggs was, physical, but, you saw Emery in there. He ran hard. Williams, rips off a big run for us. The Diggs obviously had the lion's share because, he was running physical. He was running through guys, and I think there's going to be a rotation all year. I don't know that it's always going to be one guy that gets the highlights, but it was Diggs this weekend. But I think it's still going to be a number of guys getting carries at that position. We've got the kind of depth necessary to continue to do that. Good, thank you.